Every man refused the stuttering bride, until a cowboy who couldn't read said, "I don't need words." The letter sat on the table for 6 days before I opened it, because I knew what was in it before I knew what was in it. That's a thing about not reading. You learn to read everything else instead. The weight of paper. How long a man takes folding something he's proud of versus something he's ashamed of. This letter had been folded twice, hard creases, like somebody'd pressed it flat with a flat iron so it would lay obedient in the envelope. I knew, the way I know weather, that whatever was inside wasn't good news for somebody. I had Pete Yarrow read it to me on the 7th day, out behind the smithy where nobody could hear him stumble through it and laugh at me after. Pete reads slow and flat, like he's reading a list of nails, and that's exactly why I trust him with my letters. He doesn't put feeling into other men's business. It was from the agency in Abilene. The woman they'd sent me, sight unseen, paid for, 3 months coming by train and then by stage. They were writing to say there'd been some difficulty, and did I still want her, given the difficulty, or did I want my money returned? "What's the difficulty?" I said. Pete looked at the page like it might tell him something different the second time. "Says she's he squinted, "a stammer. Bad one. Says the last family that took her and sent her back inside 2 days on account of it. Says you got first refusal since you already paid." First refusal. Like she was a horse with a bad leg, and I was being given the courtesy of looking at the leg before I said no. I want to tell you I thought hard about it. I didn't. I told Pete to write back yes, send her, and to write it plain, no flourish, because flourish costs by the word, and I never had money to waste on words I couldn't even check were spelled right. She came in on the Tuesday stage with a trunk too big for her, and a bonnet tied so tight under her chin, it looked like it was trying to choke the words back down before they got out. I'd shaved that morning, first time in 11 days, and cut myself doing it because my hand wasn't steady, which made me ashamed before I even saw her, which tells you something about the state I was in. She stepped down off the stage and looked at me, not at my boots, not past me at the town behind me, but right at my face, like she was checking what kind of weather I was, and she said, "Why, you're," and stopped. Tried again. "You're JJ, Jess." 3 other men's faces must have done something ugly when she got stuck like that. I knew it before she told me, because of how her shoulders came up around her ears the second the stutter caught, bracing for it. I've seen a dog do that. Flinch before the hand even moves because the hands moved before. I said, "I'm Jess," and then I didn't say anything else for a second because I was deciding something, and what I decided was this. I was not going to finish her sentences for her. I'd heard men do that, finish a stutterer's words like they're being generous, like they're doing her a kindness, when really they're just impatient and want their own ears to stop waiting. So I waited. I stood there in the dust with my hat in my hand. I'd taken it off without thinking, the way you do at a funeral, and I waited for her to get the rest of it out herself. It took her near a full minute. "You're J.J. Coulter," she finally got out whole, "and I'm supposed to marry you if you'll still have me." "I already said yes once," I told her. "Didn't change my mind on the ride over." She looked at me like that was the strangest thing anybody'd said to her in a year. Her name was Lucinda Hart, and the agency man who'd ridden out with her, making sure, I think, that I didn't send her right back on the same stage, since that had apparently happened to her twice now in 2 different counties. That man pulled me aside before he left and told me, like he was doing me a favor, that I ought to know what I was getting. Said the stutter got worse when she was scared, near stopped her talking entire when she was real scared, and that the last man who'd taken her had a temper and she'd gone 2 whole days without managing a sentence around him. "He scare her into silence," I said, and then sent her back for being silent. The agency man didn't like the way I said it, didn't argue it either. I asked him one more thing before he left, which was whether anybody had told her about me. He said sure, the particulars, my land, my age, my standing in the county. "Did they tell her I can't read?" He looked at me like I'd confessed to something, didn't think it was pertinent. "It's pertinent," I said. "She ought to know what she's getting too." I told her myself, that first supper, over beans I'd cooked too long and bread Mrs. Haverson down the road had sent over out of either kindness or pity, hard to say which with that woman. I told her plain, I can't read. Never learned. My pa needed me working stock instead of sitting in a schoolhouse, and by the time I was grown it was too late and too shaming to start, so I never did. I told her I signed my name with an X that I learned to make look fancier than an X has any business looking. I told her there'd be things she'd have to read for me, letters, contracts, the Bible if she was a Bible woman, and I needed her to know that going in, the same as she'd told the agency about her trouble going in. She didn't say anything for a while, just looked at her plate. Then she said, slow, working at it but not stopping this time, like the words were coming up a hill but they were going to get there. Everyone W wants to fix me, or S send me back. You're the F first person who just told me a thing about why yourself. Like we're even. We are even, I said. You got a thing your mouth does, I got a thing my eyes don't do. Neither one of us asked for it. She looked up at me then, and her jaw was set hard, the way a person's jaw gets when they've spent years bracing for a blow and one didn't come, and they don't trust yet that it isn't coming. I want to say I knew right then. I didn't. Right then I just thought, this is a woman who's been treated like a problem to be solved, and I am tired, my own self, of being treated like a man who's missing something, and maybe two tired people who have been treated like that can sit at a table and not do it to each other. The first month was mostly logistics. I'm not going to dress it up as more than it was. She read me the letters. I taught her, without ever once saying I was teaching her anything, that she didn't have to rush. We'd be sitting at the table with some bill from the feed store and she'd start in, TH, and I would just keep working at whatever was in my hands. Mending a bridle, usually. My hands always wanted something to do and not look up, not wait with my face all expectant the way folks do. Which I'd come to understand from watching her was the worst part, the waiting face, worse than the laughing ones even. I'd just keep my eyes on the bridle and let her get there. She started getting there faster, not because I fixed anything. I didn't fix a single thing about her. I think it was just that nobody was standing over her stopwatch in hand anymore. In turn, she started teaching me letters, evenings, without ever once saying that's what she was doing either. She'd have the newspaper and she'd say, "This word here, J, just looks like cat with a hat on, see the C." And I'd squint at it and she'd laugh, first time I heard her laugh outright. No stammer in a laugh. Turns out laughing is a different country than talking, and she'd say it again slower. I learned my letters that winter sitting across a table from a woman who'd been handed back twice like a bolt of bad cloth. We were two people learning to talk, in our own ways, at the same time, and neither one of us made the other feel like the slow one. The thing that happened in March, I've turned over 100 times since, trying to find the part where I was brave, and I can't find it because it wasn't bravery. It was just that I was angry, and anger makes a man do things faster than thinking does. Boyd Tanner came by the ranch with two of his hired men, on account of a fence-line dispute that had been simmering since before Lucinda ever stepped off that stage. Boyd was the kind of man who enjoyed being right more than he enjoyed being correct, if you follow me. He wanted the satisfaction of an argument more than he wanted the truth of the matter, and he'd brought men along so the argument would go his way regardless. Lucinda came out onto the porch when she heard the horses, the way a wife does, just to see who's calling, and Boyd, who'd heard about her. Everybody'd heard about her by then. The stuttering bride was about the only new gossip the county'd had all winter. Boyd looked at her and said, loud enough for his men to laugh at, something about hoping I hadn't married a woman who couldn't even say her own wedding vows proper. I didn't hit him. I want that clear, because for one full second I came closer to hitting a man than I ever had in my life, closer than I came in any bar fight in my younger years. And I didn't. And the reason I didn't was that Lucinda's hand came down on my forearm, light, just resting there, not gripping, not pulling me back like she was scared of what I'd do, just resting, like she was telling me she didn't need defending the violent way. And then she said, and this is the part I've turned over because she didn't stutter once, not on a single word, and I've thought since that maybe that's what real anger does to a stammer, burns straight through it, she said. My husband can't read a word on a page. You can't say a true thing without a lie folded up inside it somewhere. I'll take a man who's honest about what he's missing over one who's full of words and empty of truth, any day you care to set. Boyd didn't have an answer for that. His men weren't laughing anymore either. He rode off without settling the fence line that day, and we settled it later peaceable through the county office. But that's not the part of the story that matters. The part that matters is that she stood on my porch and put her hand on my arm, not to stop me from hitting a man, I came to understand later, but because she trusted me not to need stopping, and she defended me, out loud in front of men, the same way I'd refused to finish her sentences for her that first day. Neither one of us was treating the other like something broken. We were just two people standing next to each other square. I never did learn to read well. I want to be honest about that too, the same as I was honest with her at the start. I can puzzle out a newspaper now, slow, and I can read her letters when she's away visiting her sister, which she does every summer, and I can write more than an X, though my letters still come out crooked like fence posts a green hand set. But here's the thing I've come to know, sitting on this porch all these years later, watching her hang wash with the wind taking at her skirt, and her saying something to the boy about getting the rest of the linens before the dust comes up. Here's the thing. She never once, not one time in all these years, finished my sentence for me when I was working out a hard thought, and I never once finished hers. We just let each other get there. That's the whole of it far as I can tell. Not magic. Not some big rescue, though plenty of folks in town used to talk about it like I rescued her, like she was the one needing saving from a life of being handed back. Wasn't like that, not from where I sat. Way I saw it, she rescued the both of us same time, just by being a person who looked at a man's missing piece and didn't flinch, the same as I looked at hers. She's calling now, something about the boy and the wash line and the weather coming. I'll go see what she needs. Don't need her to finish that sentence either. I already know the shape of it, same as she always knows the shape of mine. That's enough words for one sitting, always was.